As cute as raccoons are, they can be destructive, messy, and a downright pain in the butt. I don't blame them or hate them for acting like animals, since they are animals that just want the same things we do: food, water, and shelter. Even though they're amazingly intelligent, they just don't seem to understand that our gardens, bird feeders, pet food, and trash containers weren't put there for their benefit. And they possess ninja-level skills, able to stealthily blend into the darkness without a sound. They also work in teams and mount their coordinated surprise attacks swiftly, using advanced tactics. We've had problems with them for a long time. At one point, they were coming into our garage at night through the pet door and eating out of the pet food bins. In the morning, I'd find the bin doors open often enough that I began to wonder if I was sleepwalking. My response to this bold behavior was to put spring clips on the bin doors to keep the furry bandits from opening them. Their response was to rip the doors completely off. So the bins went outside, and the doors were cinched down using heavy-duty tie-down straps. Have you ever heard about people tying chains around ATM machines and dragging them off so they can break into them away from the crime scene? Well, that's exactly what the raccoons did next. They managed to drag a 30-pound bin all the way across the backyard, and if it wasn't for the fence, they would have gotten away with their loot, and I'd still be wondering how the cat food bin simply disappeared. This is Steve DeMasi and my stunt raccoon, and welcome to UnchartedDIY. I've seen solutions that spray or scare nighttime intruders automatically, but what if you have pets or other wild critters that you want in the yard? What if you had a cute little skunk that you don't want to scare, but you do want to keep the raccoons away? That dilemma is why Project Scram was initiated. The switch-controlled remote anti-raccoon machine provides a cost-effective and amusing way to keep those pesky marauders at bay. The system includes an inexpensive security camera with awesome night vision and what amounts to a miniature fire hose controlled from anywhere in the world with your smartphone. You can monitor the live feed and launch the torrent yourself, and it can even be set up to super soak the little thieves automatically using motion detection to trigger the Scram device. As for making this video, this Scram device has actually worked a bit too well. I had originally planned to show lots of raccoons and other nuisance critters getting sprayed. I tried my prototype on a squirrel that was bullying everyone else in the yard, but the old nozzle wasn't fast enough to catch him. Then I deployed it on one of our nightly raccoon visitors. I actually missed the raccoon, but apparently it was close enough. It must have posted on Chitter, the critter social network, since there hasn't been another raccoon in the yard since. The members of the Raccoon Actors Guild went on strike, so I had to hire a stunt raccoon to stand in. Now, what if I told you you could wield this fearsome raccoon terrifying machine for less than $100 and a half hour of time? It's a surprisingly easy project, even for total beginners, and it's fun to build. On top of that, you end up with a security camera and remote switches that can be useful long after the raccoons have moved away. Not to mention, watching these antics is fun for the whole family. In addition to the camera and app-controlled smart switch, the items you'll need to build the Project Scram device include a sprinkler solenoid valve, hose adapters, a 24-volt power supply, heat shrink tubing, Teflon tape, and a hose nozzle of your choice. I started with a standard jet nozzle, then found a high-pressure nozzle at Walmart that has some impressive force. There are links to a similar nozzle without the redundant shutoff valve, along with links to the camera and all the other items in the description below and on my website at UnchartedDIY.com. I used a couple of tools to complete this, including a heat gun and a wire stripper, but those are optional. Let's begin assembling the Project Scram device, starting with the sprinkler valve. This is an Orbit brand 3/4 inch jar top solenoid valve. The threads are NPT, which is National Pipe Thread. While it may look like garden hose fittings would work, the NPT threads are different, so adapters are needed to connect to a garden hose, which has GHT, or garden hose threads. You'll need one male GHT to male NPT fitting, and one female GHT to male NPT fitting. The link I provided has these both in a set. The NPT threads require wrapping with Teflon or PTFE plumbing tape to prevent leaks. I wrap until I can't see the threads through the tape. However, don't stress about it, since this valve isn't going in the ground as part of a sprinkler system, and more tape can be added as needed if the connection leaks. It's important to note the molded-in arrows indicating the direction of water flow. The female-to-male adapter inserts into the input side of the valve. The male-to-male adapter inserts into the output side of the valve. You'll want to only hand-tighten these fittings, since the brass could cause the plastic to crack with too much force. Next, the wires of the solenoid valve and power supply need to be spliced together by twisting the two wires from the solenoid valve to the two wires of the power supply. These solenoid valves don't have polarity, so it doesn't matter which wire connects to which. The plastic connector on the end of the power supply isn't needed, so just cut it off. Separate the two joined wires by pulling them apart for a couple inches, and strip about 3/4 of an inch from the ends of the wires. You don't need to worry about the wires on the solenoid valve because they come pre-stripped already. Before connecting the 4 wires together, slip a piece of heat shrink tubing over each wire of the solenoid valve. Twist one of the wires from the power supply to one of the wires from the solenoid valve, making sure the wires wrap tightly around each other. If one wire wraps around while the other stays straight and unbending, it makes for a weak connection. You know, that's great relationship advice too. It's Dear Abby meets DIY. Now repeat with the remaining 2 wires. Fold the twisted exposed wire against the insulated wire and slide the heat shrink tubing over the connection. Heat the shrink tubing until it tightens, checking that it can't slip off the twisted wire. A lighter will work, but it can leave soot stains. If that matters to you, a heat gun solves that problem nicely. A note about my electrical splices. My setup is under a covered patio, and I keep the wires separate and above the hose to prevent any issues with leaks getting into the wiring. So for me, twisting the wires and applying heat shrink tubing is all that I needed. If yours will be outside and exposed to weather, you'll want your connections in a waterproof box, including the power supply to extension cord connection. Large prefab boxes can be expensive, so when I need to protect non-permanent electrical connections, I use a plastic ammo box since it's watertight and low-priced. This is how our cold frame warming lights are set up for control in the winter. Choosing a translucent box allows me to keep an eye on things inside without having to open the box. With the wiring done, the only thing left is to choose a spray nozzle, connect the hose, and attach the Project Scram device to something to keep the water pressure from turning it into a runaway fire hose. Here I use clamps to attach it to a stepladder, but you can use your creativity for mounting yours. Plug the power supply into your app-controlled switch, aim the camera, and pop some popcorn. When a raccoon or other unwanted guest arrives, hit the on button.
You remember the little red button?
Yeah.
Push the little red button. And you may want to put on a seatbelt.
And blast them with your new Project Scram device. This is Steve, and thanks for watching Uncharted DIY. Please like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Liking and subscribing really helps this channel to be more visible on YouTube, so we can keep growing and providing you with even more quality do-it-yourself content. Thank you for being part of the DIY community.